I can't even imagine. Have you heard those words and thought to yourself, neither can I? But it happened. You lived it. But most importantly, you survived it. We hear you, we see you, and we're here to talk about it. We're two moms, lifelong best friends, and we've both experienced traumatic, life-altering events involving our children. Welcome to episode 1 of the I Can't Even Imagine podcast. We're doing it.
Yes, we are.
We're here.
We are finally here.
We have been talking about doing a podcast for how long, do you think?
Seriously talking about it for at least a year, but longer than that.
Yeah.
In just theory.
Yep. And I remember when we sat down in January and we were trying to jot down ideas and kind of had a little bit of direction on where we were going, but we couldn't really decide on a name. And we just, I don't know, it felt very open-ended. We're trying to come up with like what would be the topic of discussion, who we were going to talk to, but then we just got stuck on a name for so long.
Right. I mean, we went down to, we made the name, we made the Facebook page, we did all the things, but I don't think.
But it never sat right.
Yeah, it didn't. We just didn't really know where it was going because it was more of a generalized subject matter rather than something more pinpoint and specific. Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm Victoria.
And I'm Stephanie. And we've been best friends since we were 5 years old.
This is true.
This is true. And today is, what's today, Victoria?
Today is our 34th Friendiversary.
Is it 30? No, it's 33.
Okay, 33.
33, because I met you when I was 5.
And I was 5, almost
You were 5,
6.
but you were almost 6, yes.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That's why. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, math.
Math isn't mathing.
No, makes sense. So yeah, happy 33rd Friendiversary today.
Happy 33rd Friendiversary. So we are recording this on August 27th, 2024. And August 27th has a significance in our friendship because...
Well, I don't really know. I think a lot of significant things happened on August 27th. So we kind of coined this our day. Breakups, just whatever.
Different. I definitely remember boyfriends that either broke up on this date or we started dating on this date. And then there were I don't remember the specific events that happened on the day aside from the boyfriends, but that number just kind of kept creeping into our relationship somehow.
Right.
And we were like, well, when did we actually meet?
We met the second week of kindergarten.
My family moved here to this area, and it was just in the very beginning of kindergarten, and you lived across the street, and you're the first friend that I made.
Right. And this is the start of the third week of school, so I would imagine that this, for my kids now, so I would imagine that this is around the time we would have met.
Yeah. But I think back then we started after Labor Day, though.
No, never. Not once in my life.
I'm pretty sure we did. I don't believe you.
In August.
I don't believe you.
Always in August. I guess we can check.
Go back in the archives of the interwebs and figure out when.
ChatGPT.
Or that's Victoria's other bestie.
Yeah. Call her Chatty Cathy. We came up with a funny name for it today, though. Chad.
Chad.
Because I call it Chad.
Ask Chad.
But it sounds like I say Chad, so I guess maybe
I could have sworn you said Chad, and I'm like, who?
Chad.
Oh, I should have known. It's Chad.
My other best friend, Chad.
ChatGPT.
So tell us about this podcast, Stephanie.
So it was on August 9th, just a few weeks ago. I had a really crappy day. So my oldest son, I was getting him established at our new family practice. And I have this huge red binder of documents that my husband has created that has everything in it from his whole health history, from blood work to medication info sheets to his official diagnosis and our detox protocols, genetic reports. I mean, this binder is huge. It has absolutely everything. So brought that binder with me to, our new provider, and everything went well at the appointment. And, he got a physical, he got all checked out, everything's good. And my kid's cousin was in town. And so after the appointment, I brought him and met up with the kids over at my mother-in-law's so they could spend time with grandma and the cousin and everybody have a good time. And I left them there for a bit and I went home. Just my husband was there, and I just broke down. I was just sobbing uncontrollably. And I realized that going through my son's health history, it really just drudged up a lot of buried emotional baggage and guilt. And so it just really hit me like a train. I was just sobbing and sobbing. And, the kind of tears that make your face hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And I won't go into detail about his diagnosis on this episode, but we will talk about it in the coming episodes and his whole story. So naturally, as best friends would do, I texted Victoria, and she immediately called me, but I couldn't answer. I had stopped crying. I was trying to get myself together, and I had some things I needed to accomplish for the rest of the day. And later that evening, I'm a photographer, so later that evening I had a wedding. And so on my way home, I called Victoria, and I finally told her about my day and what had happened and about my emotional breakdown. And that's when she told me about this idea that she had that just kept coming to her.
Yeah, so for a few weeks, I was thinking about it. We had talked about something, I don't know, probably a couple of weeks prior to me starting to think about this idea that we're constantly being told by people, I can't even imagine what you've been through.
When we tell our story about
Correct.
Our kids.
I can't even imagine how you feel. Or I can't even imagine that happening. And I'm going to hug my kids tighter tonight or whatever, that is that they say. And my biggest response to people is, I can't imagine it either. I just had to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a choice.
Right.
If this happened to somebody else, I would probably say, I can't even imagine what they're going through.
Right.
But when it's you don't really have any say in any of this. It just is what it is, and you just have to deal with it. And so I kept thinking that would be a really great name for a podcast. It would be really cool to feature people who have been through things that we can't even imagine. And I kept thinking that maybe this isn't going to work because it's a little bit maybe too dark because it has to do with trauma and happening to our own children.
Yeah.
But when you had brought to me your breakdown story and I brought this idea to you, you were like, oh my God, we have to do this.
Yeah. I mean, yes, parts of it is definitely dark, but that's not what our focus is going to be. Our focus is going to be, how did those families survive, how they got through it, where they found their hope, where they found their peace, for their children and for the parents, how do they heal? I think that's really going to be our big emphasis, is how to heal from these traumatic events that you go through. And Victoria will also share her story on a later episode as well. But I think it really took both of us going through these different individual events to fully understand each other.
Yeah.
And because there's been so many times where we've talked about these instances that we've been through, and we're like, oh yeah, I can totally relate to that. I always think of, you're talking about, I can't even imagine. I know the other phrase that I hear a lot is, you're so strong.
Oh, I hear that too.
You're so strong. No, I'm not. I'm actually really weak.
Yeah. And I had no freaking choice.
I had no choice.
I had no choice.
So we really want to talk to, in particularly because we're both women, we're both mothers. We really want to speak to mothers who have gone through these life-altering traumatic events,
or are continuing
having to live with something that's just completely life-altering, and sharing their stories of triumph and perseverance, and not just giving them a voice, which we absolutely want to do, but sharing with others how they can heal, and for them to know there's somebody out there going through the same crap that they are. There's somebody
100%.
out there feeling the same, really deep rooted emotional stuff that's just kind of hard to put into words. And, there's a lot of guilt in these stories, but, we're obviously not going to focus on that. But we also want these moms to know, like, they're allowed to feel that guilt, and it's normal to feel that guilt.
And
then
to be able to talk
what do you
about
do?
it.
What do you do with that guilt?
Right. I mean, I'm in therapy and I don't even know yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
But I feel like talking about it opens you up to, hearing other people and not hiding.
Yeah.
Not hiding.
Yeah. And that's one of the things speaking of therapy, I remember mentioning that when I had my breakdown, when I reached out to you, I was like, I realized that there is PTSD here and I probably do need therapy because I just go on with my life like almost as if, every day, like it never happened.
Yep.
But it did happen and it affects me.
Yep.
And Lord knows I'm sure it's going to affect my child.
Sure.
Looking at our family now, you'd have no idea what we've been through.
Right. Me neither.
And you as well.
Right.
You have no clue.
No.
Yeah. So, but I think this is going to be, it's going to be a good podcast. I think that it has the potential to help a lot of people, and we want to bring on these mothers. We also want to offer a little bit more to the mothers who are listening too, where we're thinking about bringing in experts in mental health and anybody who offers services of healing, whether that be different therapists or, even services like, facials,
right.
whatever.
Mind, body, and soul.
Mind, body, and soul. Just anything that can help
Yeah.
is what we want to do. It's heavy stuff, man. But we don't want to focus on the dark, but it's important. It's a really important piece of not only why we're doing this, but of everybody else's story. But we want to end on a high note.
Yep.
We want to end on, the happy part of the story.
Right.
Because there's always going to be blessings in all of life's trials, even in, people that I've met along the way who have experienced really serious loss. There's still blessings that come out of those losses. And, we really want to focus on that and talk about where you can find those pieces of happy.
It's always important to find the silver lining.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it is.
Absolutely.
Even if it's so small.
Yeah. It's there.
It is there somewhere.
It's there for all of us. So I think this podcast is going to be great, and we're really looking forward to getting our stories out there and interviewing lots of different mothers and people who can offer help to you if you're listening. You can find us on Facebook. It's the I Can't Even Imagine podcast, and find us on Instagram at ICEI_podcast. And for now, we're just on social media, but eventually we'd love to get a website and really get our names out there. So this is episode 1. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.